Hello, this is the third lecture in linguistics. We will start with the core study of the raw material on which we depend in the study of language, which is the sounds of language, or phonetics. Now, certain facts before we start with phonetics. Phonetics is the field which studies the speech sounds, or human speech sounds, or human sound signals. When we deal with the phonetics of a language, then we move to what is called phonology. When we deal with phonology, then we have phonemes, which are the distinctive features of sounds, and here the fact that English has 44 phonemes. Some of them are consonants and some are vowels. Now, generally speaking, phonetics is of four types. Phonetics can be divided into four types. One, articulatory phonetics. Two, auditory phonetics. Three, acoustic phonetics. And four, forensic phonetics. Now, articulatory phonetics is concerned with the production of sound, what we are studying now. Articulatory phonetics, which is the production of speech sounds, how speech sounds are produced. Auditory phonetics, which is the perception of sound, how sound transfers through the air after being produced, how it is transferred in the air and perceived by listeners. The third type, which is acoustic phonetics, it is the type of phonetics that deals with the sound waves in the air when the sound is produced and transferred. Now, how it is transferred through the air, this is the concern of acoustic phonetics. And the fourth one, which is forensic phonetics, it deals with the legal issues of sound identification, sound modification, when dealing with forensic in terms of criminal sound records, or human being, or human identification or the identification of human sounds. Now, what we deal with here in our lecture, in our course of linguistics, is the study of articulatory phonetics, how sound is produced, the sound production. Now, how sound is produced in general, how sound is produced in general, of course, first it starts from the respiratory system. Air is pushed out from the lungs, and then here the air is modified throughout the track of the sound, and then sound through the modification, sounds are produced. Through the modification, sounds are produced. I mean, different sounds are produced until they reach the vocal organs. They'll have a specific or the distinctive features of the sound. Now, these distinctive features of the sound starts with the voiced or voiceless. Voiced or voiceless. Why? Because the voicing process is done is done in the glottal stop, which is the first place where sound gets modified. Now, articulation starts first at the voiced and voiceless processes. Voiced sounds are the sounds where vocal cords are spread apart. They are away from each other. Here we call it voiceless. When the vocal cords are apart from each other, away from each other, then we call it voiceless. There is no voiced, or what we call it, the repetition or the quick repetition of the vocal cords. While voiced sounds are done when the vocal cords are drawn together, the air from the lungs repeatedly pushes them apart. They are drawn together, they come close to each other, but at the same time they are away from each other. But this process is done quickly and repeatedly, very quickly and very repeatedly, that they will be shaked and vibrated, and this vibration is called voiced sounds. Now, how these sounds are described when we come to the articulatory phonetics, how sounds are described. Of course, sounds are described through the process of phonation, or voiced or voiceless, which is called voicing. This is number one. Number two, place of articulation. And number three, manner of articulation. Now, we've talked about the voicing or phonation. Now, the second process is the place of articulation. Place of articulation is the place or the position where sounds are produced. If you noticed, I've kept saying sounds. They are not phonemes yet. They are sounds. Why? Because we deal with phonetics, and phonetics is the study of human speech sounds. We're not specifying ourselves with phonemes. Now, the place of articulation is the location inside the mouth at which the constriction takes place. The constriction here is where sounds are produced. Now, most consonant sounds start at the front of the mouth and work back. For example, from the teeth, from the lips, from the tip of the tongue, and then goes back to the other, to the back organs of sounds. And we said consonants, not vowels. Consonants are either voiced or unvoiced, voiceless. These symbols will be enclosed within squares or square brackets, like these square brackets. When we deal with phonetics, specifically, then we put these square brackets. We do not put slashes like we do in phonology. We put these square brackets, and this is important. Now, in the place of articulation, we have several places of articulation. I mean, several positions where sounds can be produced. And here we talk about phonetics in general. We do not talk about English or Arabic or French or any other language. We talk in general. However, the examples are taken from English because the book is written in English. Now, the places of articulation, we have bilabial, which means the constriction, the production of the sound is bilabial, which means the upper and the lower lips. The main point is the upper and or the lower lips. For example, pe, when dealing with pe, or ba, ma, and where all these are dealt with or are produced with the use of the lips. Then the second one is labiodentals. Labiodentals, which means two organs are shared when producing the sounds, which is the lips and the dents, the lips and the teeth. The lips and the teeth. These, such as the th and ve, th and ve, the upper teeth and the lower lip, the upper teeth and the lower lip, th and ve. The third place of articulation, which is dentals, dentals, where the teeth are the main constricted element of the sounds. The teeth, for example, the teeth is constricted on a particular part of the tongue to produce, for example, the interdental th or the, th or the, and you can see th, there is no vibration to the vocal cords, then it is voiceless, while the, there is a vibration to the vocal cords, then it is voiced. Now, how to know physically whether the sound is vibrated or not? You can put your fingers on your Adam's apple and pronounce the sound. You will feel it. You will feel the vibration. If you feel the vibration, then the sound must be vibrated, must be voiced. If you do not feel this vibration, then the sound must be voiceless. Now, back to the topic. The fourth place of articulation, which is alveolar, and you must know, you must study these. You must study these places. These places in the in the vocal tract. So you must know where alveolar area lies. So alveolar place of articulation is where the sounds are made by the articulation of the tip of the tongue towards the alveolar ridge. The alveolar ridge, when the tip of the tongue goes towards the alveolar ridge, then here the behind the teeth, then we have the alveolar sounds. I mean the constriction. We have the alveolar sounds. For example, te, de, se, ze. Okay, all these are alveolar sounds. Now the fifth place of articulation, which is the alveopalatals, or sometimes palatals. Alveopalatals, or sometimes only palatals. And these one, the front of the tongue, not the tip, the front of the tongue goes towards the area between the alveolar ridge and the hard palate. Between the alveolar ridge and the hard palate. For example, the voiceless she, the voiceless she and se, she and se, or the voiced je, ze and ye, je, se, ze and ye. Now, the sixth place of articulation is the velars. These sounds are made by the articulation of the back of the tongue towards the velum. Back of the tongue towards the velum. For example, the voiceless ke in English, the voiceless ke, or the voiced ge, or the voiced ang. These are from English. We have it in Arabic. We have the velar re, qa in Arabic. These are called the velar sounds. The glottals, this is the seventh where the constriction of the sound occurs in the glottis, which is when the vocal cords are kept open while we are modifying our air which comes from the lungs. And here we have the glottal stop, which is like this. And here we have the voiceless ha, the sound, the breathy sound. And we have the which is the voiced we have it in Arabic, we call it al-hamza, and this is called in English the vocal the glottal place of articulation. Now those are the seven places of articulation. Now we come to the third type of classification, the third parameter according to which we classify consonants, which is manner of articulation. And again, it is how sounds are articulated or how sounds are produced. Now we have again 6 or 7 manners of articulation, starting with stops. We talked about the place of articulation, the constriction of sounds, where the main point where sounds are produced. Here, where are the main points how sounds are produced? The main points of how sounds are produced. The first one is the stops, or stop consonants. Stop consonants. It is when the air is held back and then released. We call them stops. When the air is stopped for a moment and then released for a period of time and then released. In this we have the pe, be, te, and ge. Although these sounds belong to different places of articulation, but they belong to the same category of manner of articulation, which is stops or stop consonants. Now here we said the air is held back and hold back in the mouth and then released abruptly or suddenly or with explosion and so on. Now the second type is fricatives. Here, when the air stream is blocked, it is not blocked, I should say. It is or it goes through a very narrow opening, making friction in the air, and these are like the, se, ze, je, and sh. All these sh and je, all these are produced in a way where air goes through a very narrow opening. The third manner of articulation is the affricates, which is che, je, where the combination of stopping and friction, where air stopped for a moment and then goes through a narrow opening, which causes the she and je. The fourth one is the nasals, which is by its name, which means the sound or the sounds that are produced through through the nasal cavity, which means the air is produced through through narrowing at certain place through the nasal cavity. Sounds like me, ne, and ng. The fifth is approximant or approximants. The articulation of each is strongly influenced by the following vowel sound. The consonant sounds here are influenced by the following vowel sound. All of them are voiced, and these are like we, re, le, and he. I'm using we, re. I'm using this e in order to distinguish the sound. Otherwise, there is no e at the end of these sounds that I am pronouncing. The sixth is the flap. Manner of articulation is the flap. It is how we produce sounds depending on the articulation, how we articulate it. The difference between pronunciation of butter and close to butter. So how we flap these, how we use them. Sometimes we use the re, the Arabic re or the English re, and there is a huge difference in terms of trilling, and these are called flapping or trilling sometimes. Vowels, which is the second broad or major type of sounds in general. As we said, sounds are either consonants and vowels. Vowels are of 3 or 4 types: short, long vowels. Short or long vowels, these are called monophthongs. Short and long vowels are called monophthongs. Then diphthongs, the combination of 2 vowels, which is one is short and the other is long. Then triphthong, which is the combination of 3 vowels. Vowels, and you can see the examples and the sounds, the vowel sounds here. The short like e, a, long oo, e, a. Diphthongs like oi, gliding from one quality to another, gliding, oi, a, ia. Triphthongs, gliding through 3 qualities, through 3 vowels. For example here, shower, awa, fire, and higher, and so on and so forth. That's all about phonetics. As we said, it is the study of human speech sounds in general, regardless of any language, regardless of specification of any language. It is the core or raw material from which or on which we depend in studying phonology, which is the key field to the study of morphology, syntax, and semantics, and so on. So this is all about phonetics. It is a brief lecture. I know it is very divergent and so many theories about phonetics. However, what we can introduce here as an introduction to linguistics is this. Next time we'll continue with phonology. That's all. If you have any question, please contact me online. Thank you very much.